Hey people, it's me, Anja. My pronouns are she and her, and welcome back to my channel for part 3 of my favorite books with transgender main characters to continue the celebration of LGBT plus Pride Month. The first book on this list is called The Ship We Built. First of all, there is a huge trigger warning on this book for sexual assault because this book is a middle grade contemporary, technically historical fiction because I believe it's set in the 80s or the 90s, but anyway, it follows a young transgender boy who's navigating his identity. And it also talks about the power of allyship and the power of friendship and how much like a great friendship can help you figure out who you are and make you feel right and seen, if that makes any sense. This book was so good and it was one of my favorites of 2021 for a multitude of reasons. First of all, the writing was so lyrical and it was absolutely so beautiful and so pretty. Second of all, the world building was so fantastic and absolutely so well done. Third of all, the characters were so well developed and so distinct. Fourth of all, the plot was so intriguing and absolutely so engaging. Fifth of all, the friendship between the main character and their best friend was so wonderful and absolutely so lovely and really like produced a light amongst the backdrop of like more heavy topics, if that makes any sense. This book is absolutely so good and it's so fantastic, but again, there's a huge trigger warning on this book for sexual assault, so with all that said, I would definitely highly recommend this book. The next book on this list is called At the End of Everything. This book is a YA science fiction story that follows 3 main characters, one of which is non-binary, as they were basically left behind to die at a juvenile detention center during a plague. And it really talks about how people in prison were like left behind or not really thought of during a pandemic. Like that's the parallel, if that makes any sense. Basically, this book is so good. First of all, the plot was so intriguing and absolutely so engaging. Second of all, the world building was so well done and felt so authentic and so great. Third of all, the characters themselves were so well developed and so distinct, and I loved the camaraderie between all 3 of them individually, as well as their dynamic with like all the rest of the characters, like the side characters and everything. Like literally, this book is so good and it's so underrated. This book was released at the very beginning of this year, and yet nobody is talking about it, so I will. You know what I mean? This book is absolutely so underrated, and it was so engaging and so interesting and absolutely so intriguing. I had really low expectations for this book because the previous 2 books that I've read by this author, I rated the least stars. But this book absolutely exceeded those low expectations, thankfully, and with all that said, I would gladly read more from the author in the future because their writing is so good. So anyway, with all that said, I would definitely highly recommend this book. The next book on this list is called The Best Derails in Riverview. This book is a middle grade contemporary following a young, non-binary main character as they look for their missing best friend, and it talks about acceptance, growing up, and friendship. This book is so good, and honestly, it's so captivating, and it's absolutely so engaging. First of all, the plot was so intriguing and so engaging, and absolutely so well developed. Second of all, the friendship was so lovely, and absolutely so wonderful. Third of all, the characters were so well developed and so distinct. I really enjoyed this book, and honestly, I can't stop thinking about it because I thought that every single element about the story was literally so well developed, especially the transgender representation. Now, I'm cisgender, so obviously I can only speak on this representation to an extent, but I thought it was so timely and so necessary and absolutely so well developed. This book is so good, and it really like speaks from the heart and to the heart, if that makes any sense. Like literally, this book is so good and it's so underrated, and it genuinely like annoys me that nobody is talking about it. So anyway, with all that said, this book is so amazing, and with that, I would highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Ellen Outside the Lines. This book is a middle grade contemporary following a young, non-binary, sapphic autistic main character as they navigate new friendships, changing horizons, and a school trip. This book was one of my most anticipated 2022 new releases since the author previously wrote Anna on the Edge in 2020, and that book was one of my favorites of 2020, so naturally I had very high expectations for this book, and thankfully it lived up to those expectations. First of all, the autistic representation representation was so well done, and it resonated so much with me, myself, as an autistic person. Literally, it was so good. Second of all, the plot was so intriguing and it was absolutely so engaging. Third of all, the characters were so well developed and so distinct. Fourth of all, the friendships were so lovely, and the non-binary representation was so great. It was absolutely so lovely, as well as all the other queer representation in this book. This book is absolutely so good because it's so wholesome, and it's so lovely, and it's absolutely so good. Literally, this author is so talented, and I will gladly continue to support them in the future because their writing was so good. This book is absolutely so awesome, and it deserves all its hype and so much more. So with that, I would highly, highly recommend it. The last book on this list, and certainly not the least, is called The Witch King. This book is a YA urban fantasy following a young transgender witch who must face the fiancé that he left behind, as well as his traumatic past, in order to save a fae kingdom. This book is literally so good. First of all, the world building was so vivid, and it was absolutely so rich and so well done. Second of all, the plot was so intriguing and so engaging. Third of all, the characters were so well developed and so distinct. Fourth of all, the Achillean romance was so well developed, and it was absolutely so lovely that I really, really enjoyed it. The friendships were also so well developed and so lovely. Like, literally, this book is so good. I'm aware that the sequel is already out by the time that you're watching this video, but I haven't read it yet, and I'm so excited to read it. Like, literally, this book is so good in every single element. The romance, the transgender representation, the queer representation in general, the world building, the characters, the friendships, like literally everything about this story is literally so good. So anyway, with all that said, I would definitely highly, highly recommend this book. So, in conclusion, first of all, happy Pride Month. Second of all, in case you want some more recommendations, I have linked in the description box below parts 1 and 2 if you haven't seen those videos already. If you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the panda emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!